Hello everyone and welcome. In this tutorial, I will be taking you through the application of process costing. Process costing systems are used by organizations manufacturing homogeneous or uniform products on a continuous mass production basis in one or more consecutive production processes. Examples of industries using a process costing system may include brick manufacturing, paper manufacturing, petrol, and paint manufacturing. I will go over the sample assessment question related to a brick manufacturer to explain the concept. The question states that a brick manufacturer incurred 216,000 rand in respect of materials and 323,000 rand in respect of conversion costs. Conversion costs are labor and manufacturing overheads that are incurred in order to convert the raw materials into the finished product. These costs were incurred during the month of January. Then we are also given information about the units completed and transferred out and the units in closing work in progress. We are told the degree of completion of work in progress at the end of January is 20%. This means that the units of 400,000 included in ending work in progress are only 20% complete. We are required to calculate the average cost per brick and then to assign the cost between completed units and work in progress. Part A requires the calculation of the average cost per brick. In order to calculate this, we need two things. We have to determine the accumulated cost incurred during the specified period, and we have to determine the equivalent production units. Accumulated costs comprise of material, labor, and manufacturing overheads. The accumulated cost incurred in the production process during January is 216,000 rand plus 323,000 rand, which equals 539,000 rand. The second item I mentioned is the equivalent production units. The use of equivalent units is necessary because not all the units will be completed at a certain time, and hence it is necessary to express the incomplete or work in progress units in terms of a measure that is the equivalent of complete units. In this scenario, we have 400,000 units in closing work in progress that is only 20% complete. Determining equivalent units means finding the equivalent of partially completed units in terms of complete units. For example, if 10,000 units were 60% complete in terms of materials, labor, and overheads, then 6,000 complete units could have been manufactured using the same quantity of resources as has been used for the 10,000 unfinished units. I get 6,000 by taking the 10,000 and multiplying it by the percentage of completion, which in my scenario is 60%. Equivalent units are calculated by multiplying the units included in work in process by the percentage of completion. In this scenario, there's 400,000 units in work in progress, and these units are 20% complete. The equivalent of 400,000 partially complete units is 80,000 complete units. The next step is to calculate the total equivalent production units. You find this by adding the units completed and transferred to finished goods to the equivalent units in work in progress. In this scenario, 900,000 units have been completed and transferred, and if we add this to the 80,000 equivalent units in work in progress, we'll get a total of 980,000 units. Once the total equivalent units manufactured is known, the average cost per unit can be calculated. The average cost per unit is calculated by dividing the accumulated cost by the total equivalent production units. In this scenario, we'll divide the cost of 539,000 Rand by 980,000 units, giving us an average cost of 55 cents per brick. Part B requires that we assign the costs between completed units or finished goods and work in progress. The cost of completed units is calculated by multiplying the average cost per unit with the units completed and transferred. In this scenario, we've calculated an average cost per unit of 55 cents. If this is multiplied by 900,000 units completed and transferred, the cost of completed units is 495,000 Rand. The cost of work in progress is calculated by multiplying the average cost per unit with the equivalent units included in work in progress. In this scenario, we've calculated the equivalent units included in work in progress to be 80,000 units. If this is multiplied by the average cost per unit of 55 cents, the cost of work in progress is 44,000 Rand. You have reached the end of this tutorial. As a final check, if you add the cost of completed units and the cost of work in progress, it should result in the same amount as when you add the accumulated cost of material, labor, and manufacturing overheads.